the grand final, the timing of the grand final. So we now have both the CEO and the chairman of the AFL who have expressed their personal belief.
And what did Gills say?
Gills said twilight is an incredible time slot, and the overarching question is, can the event be better? And then Richard Goyder in the West Australian on the weekend went, at the right time, for the right reason, I think we should give it a go.
Oh, it sounded really strong from Richard Goyder. I was part of the AFL briefing last week when we were grilling Gill about the time slot. He thought last year's grand final was one of the more magical days of sport he had been to. And I walked away thinking, I think Gill's going to keep it as a day grand final.
So that was my impression out of that.
Then when I picked this...
think there was any desire for change just yet.
And this is Colin Carter, the Cats president.
Yeah, so there's been a couple of interesting responses, weren't there? The AFL Fans Association, who I actually think sort of overstepped their mandate at the moment. They stated that the clear majority in every poll that's ever run is for it to remain, and thus it should always be.
But that's true. That's a fact.
Yes, but those polls are always conducted in the aftermath of it being floated to move, and so they're the quickest to measure the pushback and the outrage. There needs to be, doesn't there, there are 1 million AFL members. If you want to do it properly, well, let's do it properly. In with the membership.
Well, do it.
Do your plebiscite.
The best we've got at the moment are polls, and the Herald Sun poll for the last 5 years said more than 72%.
Jeff Kennett, his role as the opposition leader seems to intensify by the month.
I think he has woken up this new year from the wrong side of the bed.
Yeah, they're appalling. I'm totally disgusted at the way they've performed. The clubs have a say. The clubs were consulted to the nth degree over the venue of the grand final, the long-term deal to keep it at the MCG. The 18 clubs have no say in what time the grand final is played. Jeff didn't govern by consensus. This is a contract very clearly between the AFL and the fans of the game. That's the relationship that needs to be measured.
I've written about this tomorrow. I've written about this tomorrow. Does the AFL listen to the fans? The AFL like to say, Jared, the fans are the custodians of this game.
Yep.
Right? We are just there. Should they listen to the fans? I get the impression that you are happy for a twilight grand final.
I'm actually an advocate for it now.
Yeah, so I'm not.
I think the spectacle will unquestionably be enhanced, and we know that more people watch the later the time slot is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it will be enhanced. Darkness does bring on wonderful things, we know that. But no, I don't know if it will be enhanced. We're opposed here, buddy. First show.
Good.
Why can't we keep something unique in our unique game?
No, we can.
Why can't we?
We can.
Every other sporting event's going around the world are going nights.
Yeah. So
razzmatazz, lights, music, let's rock and roll. Why can't we have in 30 years or 50 years' time people say, how's that crazy little sport down in Australia? They still play it during the day.
Yeah.
Why not?
What if it would be better?
Well...
4:30, the changing of the light. So you get both. The game starts in daylight, finishes at nightfall. The lights take effect during the afternoon.
But why? We had, in the last 12 months under Steve Hocking, and this might not be Steve Hocking's idea, but under the AFL, it is change, Jared. Can't we just breathe a little bit?
So if the AFL wants to do it, they need to really clearly articulate to its fans why. Make the case. Don't just float it here and there. Really clearly make the case.
What if the AFL comes out and says, well, we just want to see it? Is that enough?
No, I think they need to do better than that.
There's something fishy.
But equally, it is their role to govern the game. And governing by consensus is a mandate to fail.
Yeah, it is. But don't say on one hand we listen to the fans and then on the other say, well, we're going to make these decisions. Yeah. I have made the point that they did bring down the price of dim sim chips and pies, Jared, and that cannot be underestimated.
I think the split is much, much closer than your 75-25.
The players' survey last year, Jared. The players' survey was 73-27.
The captains overwhelmingly thought it should shift. So it depends how you want to cut your numbers. Ask Graham Richardson. It's however you want to cut your numbers. But this is why, if you're going to do it, you've got to do it thoroughly and properly and by their own measure, bring the people with you.
Well, they're not.